Well, it's a privilege to be here again, and thank you so much. I wasn't going to talk about the books, but there are different books that are available about the area and different topics. But today we're not going to talk about the book so much. We're going to talk about, as Karen mentioned, the orphanage that used to be here in Dundee and the Sears homes. So let's get started. I will tell you this. I decided to speak on two topics because I felt at first that I wouldn't have enough information on the orphanage to make it into a long discussion, worthy of an audience. I was so wrong. There is so much information. I could speak on the orphanage for 3 hours, to tell you the truth. It's unbelievable what's come up. And so that's why I added the Sears home. So what we're going to do today is speak for about 2/3 of the discussion on the orphanage, maybe a third on the Sears homes, okay? And I got to tell you, I'm actually intimidated right now to be giving this talk in this audience. I'm going to tell you why. Because Lexi is here, who was raised in the home. It's been in her family for 70 years, that facility, so at home. So it's really something else. So I'm so happy you're here today. If I make any mistakes, you let me know, okay? So at the outset, though, I would like to express my deepest appreciation and thanks for so much help that I've received from a number of people. And that is, of course, Lexi. We spoke on the phone for a good hour, 2 nights ago? It was really beneficial. And then the Dundee Historical Society. They are such an aid to me and resources of information that I get with regard to the histories of so many topics, and in this case, especially with regard to the Yeoman Orphanage. There's another man named Brett Kuntz who helped me out. I want to thank him as well as Steve Burke. These individuals were a great help. And I tell you, whenever I do a book takes a number of years to do. And it's because of other people and their research and their resources, it all comes together that makes these things possible. So thank you all again so much for this help. Well, today we're going to talk on two topics. Like I said earlier, the orphanage that was right here in Dundee and the Sears kid homes. The orphanage was called the Yeoman City of Childhood. And this badge here that you're seeing here in the middle is a photo of the administration building that was located on that property. So does it look familiar? It does. For some it does. So it's good. I'm going to tell you where it was located at. Then I should get my pointer ready too. Okay, this is Route 31, looking north, okay? How it looked many, many years ago. And you see these farm buildings. Most of them are still there to this day. That's where the orphanage and the property was located at. Here's the home, how it looks today. But that's how it looked back when it was an orphanage in the administration building. This is the administrative offices of the Yeoman City of Childhood. This photograph was taken around 1932. Now, before we go into detail regarding the Yeoman City of Childhood, let's look into the history of this property that led up to this becoming the Yeoman City of Childhood. And this is kind of detailed, so I hope this doesn't lose any of you or bore you. I don't think it will. I'll try not to. So the beginnings of this beautiful home go back to the 1830s. That's a long time ago. Thomas H. Thompson and his wife Sarah were among the first settlers to move to the Dundee area. Here they built their home around 1833, 1834. Kane County at this time was organized by an act of the state legislature on January 16, 1836. It was originally a 36-mile square county, and it even included DeKalb County back at that time. Now, the county was divided into precincts for the election of justices of the peace and constables. So, the first election in Lake Precinct, which was then included both Dundee and Elgin, took place on July 1st, 1836 in this house. So the first election took place right here for the constable and the justice of the peace. Oh, we're a little bit too high there. Let me fix that right now. Oh, you're fine. A little lower. There we go. Is that a little better? Okay. Okay. So in 1841, Thomas and Sally Thompson gave birth to a son, Thomas Hinckley Thompson. And this is important because this man, it seems that this home that we're talking about had so much history, and so many individuals that were living there had an influence on what happened in the country in this area. And this includes the Thompson family. Because this gentleman here, their son, 20 years go by, he's in 1861, after he's like 20 years of age, we know that the Civil War began. And so this gentleman, their son, went to the Civil War. And he was actually involved with several historic battles. The Battle of Shiloh is a major battle he was involved with. But he was at that time promoted to the lieutenant and assigned to the quartermaster department. By the time Lee surrendered in 1865, Thompson was serving in the department as a captain. So this boy, who was born and raised at that property, became a captain in the Civil War. Now, after his discharge in 1865, he returned home to Illinois, and he got involved in publishing county atlases. These large volumes included maps showing land ownership, drawings of farms, homes, businesses, historical and commercial information. These were large volumes that this man built, or developed, I should say. In fact, one, which is called The History of Nevada from 1881, is still considered a classic with regard to historical documents. Here's an actual photograph of that book that this man wrote. Now, so time goes on, the property is sold, and now it becomes the estate of Elisha Garzi Ketchum. And I'm not sure of the year that he purchased the property, but based upon the available evidence, it was before 1872. And what he did, he enlarged the property. And this, by the way, is a photograph that I found of him on the internet, of his family genealogy. So that actually is him. So I'll tell you something. I am so blessed and so thankful for the internet. Because I'm going to tell you something. But you can find out so much information today. You can dig and dig and dig. The key is making sure it's accurate, you know. But bottom line is there is so much accurate information on there. If you can just glean through it to find it, it's awesome. So this is so much fun. So by the turn of the century, in 1900, this area was known even by the locals as Ketchum's Woods. That's what it was called. Here's a picture of a sketch drawing of the home from 1872. And note on the bottom, it says right on that, residence of E.G. Ketchum. So that's why I know, or I state, I should state, I don't know, I state that he had the property by 1872. So that was the date that was on this drawing, okay? So, and look at this here. Now, much of this home that you're seeing right here at that time resembles what we see to this day. This section here is visible to this day. And I think the section here is too. Do you agree, Lexi? I agree. Okay, so. Good. So we're going to go on to this here, show some other pictures later on. But isn't that beautiful? Look at 31. Isn't it something? Just a different time period, isn't it? My goodness. Just so beautiful, I tell you. In 1906, another change takes place. This is regarding John F. Jelke. He purchased the property from the Ketchum estate. And this would become his summer home. So he was here during the summers. His company, the John F. Jelke Company, used this as their dairy farm. And they were famous for their Holstein cows. Here's an actual card with showing the barn and their cows, their herd. Here's an actual sketch of their buildings that were right in Chicago. They were a huge company, and this was his property. Here's some newspaper articles that I found on the internet. Again, I actually subscribed to a newspaper, it's a website, and they scan in all old newspapers. So you can type in a name, and you can find newspapers from hundreds of locations. I typed in like John F. Jelke, and I found these various articles that were written from all over the country. So it's just amazing what you can find. So this is a good example, because look at this here, what it says. On the famous Jelke, look at the famous Jelke dairy farm near Dundee, Illinois, in the beautiful Fox River Valley, the most famed dairy district in the world, is a herd of purebred, pedigreed Holstein cows.
Sounds like a marketing professional.
No way. It's in print. It's got to be true. No? So that's pretty something. Now, it does say here that it is milk from these cows and from similar herds on adjoining farms, for which the Jelke Dairy Farm serves as a model that forms the largest portion of the most remarkable food product on the market today. Jelke, good luck. So that, I think, is a sales gimmick. You know, the most remarkable food product is margarine. That's what they made. And here's another article, another sales thing they found. This is from 1910 from the Chicago Daily Tribune. Look what it says here. Good luck cream comes from the Jelke Dairy Farm in the Fox River Valley. So it says here, we control our own cream supply and challenge any maker of dairy products in a comparison of quality or sanitary conditions under which cream is produced. So they spoke very highly of themselves. Serge, please.
Yeah, one of the things that I understood that Jelke did was he was one of the first to put coloring in margarine because it was a white.
That's right. Margarine was white. That's correct.
It made it look like butter.
Right. There's a law. Craig, right? This is Craig. I'm sorry, Craig. Craig, you know, I didn't mention Craig at the beginning. Craig helped me out too, and I should have mentioned this here. Well, you helped me out because you gave me Steve Burke's phone number, and I thank you for that. So I'm going to tell you something. You're right, and that was actually a law. That was by this put out by the law of the government. They had to separate it. They weren't allowed to make it yellow because it looked too much like butter. They didn't want it to look like butter. So there's an actual law that was specified that margarine at that time had to have a capsule that you would add to the margarine to make it yellow. So it was white originally. You're right. Yep. Yep. Here are some examples of their advertisements. So, Oleo margarine. You know, my name is Aleo. I was called Oleo margarine as a kid all the time, I tell you. Yeah. So, yep, it's unbelievable here. So it's funny. Okay. On December 1st, 1923, it was announced that Jelke had sold the Dundee property. And this is interesting. It says here, the sale of the J.F. Jelke Good Luck Farm, the show place of the Fox River Valley, located 4 miles north of here, to Dr. Herman H. Huser, Chicago chemist and soft drink manufacturer, was announced today. The farm sold for a reported price of $150,000. The deal was consummated through Leslie Coleman. So this is information, I think that was new information for most people, that Huser had purchased this property. So this is from the Alton Evening Telegraph, December 1st, 1923 newspaper. Isn't that something? So,
A lot of money for back then, too.
yeah, yeah. So that's interesting here. Now, in 1925, so we're talking about a year and a half later, the Brotherhood of American Yeoman, founded in Iowa in 1897, purchased the property. It became known as the Yeoman City of Childhood. The insurance company had an insurance policy that covered orphans of deceased policyholders. This home became a haven for many children. It was supported by 300,000 members who contributed 10 cents per month to support the home. That's $350,000 or $360,000 annually. Because now today, in today's direct time, it would be $5.4 million. That's what it would boil down to. $1 in 1925, today, that dollar would take, well, how can I say this? It's 1/15 of the value is what it is. So what $1 purchased in 1925, it would have been 7 cents by today. So that's what it boils down to. So what it boils down to is that 10 cents would be $1.50 by today's standards, based on the chart that I use, which hopefully is accurate. You know, so anyway, but anyway, 5.4 million today. When they purchased the property, it consisted of 600 acres, including the estate home and all the farm buildings. Here's an article from the True Republican. This is Wednesday, June 17th, 1925. It states that the Brotherhood American Yeoman, at meeting in New York last week, voted to buy for about $200,000, 583 acres and 2 farms north of Elgin. The Good Luck Farm, purchased by Herman Huser of Chicago a year ago, last January, from John F. Jelke, has 277 acres. It is one of the beauty spots of northern Illinois. A creek fed by numerous springs and tiles from the lowlands cuts the southern end of the farm. It goes on to say down here, the Good Luck Farm was the summer home of Mr. Jelke for many years. The Huser family now occupies the mansion on the beautiful grounds fronting on the Fox River Trail. So, pretty interesting, isn't it? So it just kind of helps you to appreciate how this property has always been looked to as such a gem for over a century, and it is to this day. So remember this view? How it looked? I showed this earlier. This is how it looked when the orphanage had the facility. So you can see that one part is still here, and again the back part here. But look how that's added on now in the front. Here's another view. This is the side view looking north from Route 31, which would be over here. That would be to the left. So this is the side view looking north. Here's like the back of the house and so on. Here's how the property looked at that time. Here's a photograph from 1926. This is when it was the orphanage. Here they are working on the farm. Look at that truck. On there's the Yeoman logo. This is the Yeoman Orphanage. Now this is interesting. Now we know that they purchased the property in 1925. Now we're in 1927. This is dated Saturday, June 25th, 1927. It states June 25th, Elgin. This is from the Edwardsville Intelligencer, Edwardsville, Illinois. A $60,000 unit of the first permanent children's cottage at the Yeoman City of Childhood on the Fox River Trail, 4 miles north of Elgin, will be constructed at once, according to Mrs. A.H. Huffman, managing officer of the institution. It will be ready for occupancy by 24 children October 1st. The institution now cares for about 50 children in their orphanage. It is planned to care ultimately for all inmates in cottages. So the impression that I get is that they were on this property already, living, I'm not sure where, in the home, possibly, but also maybe in other buildings too. But somewhere, that's the impression I get from this. But no question about it, they already had 50 children before the first cottage was being built. That's interesting. Now, there were a total of 3 buildings built for the children. They were beautiful, spacious cottages built with the children's best interest and comfort in mind. The 3 brick cottages were named the Poppy, the Evergreen, and Cedric Hall. The Poppy Cottage was a large building for girls. This is the Poppy Cottage. It was built in 1927. This was the first one built. Look at the size of this. So you can see why it cost $60,000 back then. That was a lot of money, you know? Here's how it broke down. One wing of the building had 8 rooms for little girls 3 to 9 years old. The second wing had 8 rooms for girls 10 to 15 years of age. The matron, which is 2 house mothers, had their own big room, a living room, a bedroom combination, and a private bathroom. And the woman cook also had a large room, bedroom and bathroom. That would have been down in this section here, because it says the upstairs were 5 bedrooms for 8 high school girls. So it breaks down where the girls were living at in this facility, this building. Now, this is the next hall. This is Cedric Hall. This was for all boys 8 years of age on up through high school. Another good-sized facility. And they had a married couple that took care of them as well. So the wife cooked for the boys, and the husband watched over the boys. Now, it did state that the girls and the boys could visit each other in the cottage living rooms, but not in the bedrooms, even if they were brother and sister. So they had strict laws, strict guidelines that were enforced at this facility. It was really, I'm going to tell you something, and I'll talk about this later on, but think about this. We're talking about the time when this country was in the deepest depression ever. And these were the homes that these children were living in, you know? So it's amazing, you know? So, Evergreen Cottage. This was for little boys 3 to 7 years of age. Isn't this a good picture? I'm going to tell you something. Up till 3 days ago, the only photograph that was available that I knew of for this was another photograph which was taken much later. It was overgrown. the front and so on. And this picture, thanks to Photoshop, it shows how it looks today. But I'm going to tell you how I did this here. There's actually, Steve Burke had some pictures of a calendar. And it was mainly this here. I actually was able to finish it out and build it out. But this is from that calendar, this picture. So you can really see how it looks. Isn't that beautiful? So this is important, which I'll talk about later on. But one thing I want to mention is this. The minimum age to live at the Yeoman City of Childhood was 3 years of age. So if parents died and they were putting in for this benefit, what would happen is that, like say a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old, they would go to like another member of the Yeoman insurance that was a member and live with that family until they became 3 years of age. And then they would come to the orphanage to live. And the very last person or family, I think I could be wrong on this here. I do know this for sure. I know of a family, I can't think of the name now. I thought it was Maine's, but I'm not sure if that's the right family or not. Is that the one where he was 3 years old when he came? I'm thinking if it was him. But the family that had raised him to that age, they loved him. They didn't want to give him up, you know? And so it was very, very heartbreaking. They actually went to court, but of course, it was the way it was set up, and the family wanted the children to come here, so it did happen. So it was very, very emotional. So that was one of the negatives, I think, of little children, at least, for this here. It would be so hard to have a child from, let's say, birth, to raise them as your own for 3 years, and have to give them away. Oh. So anyway, so this is the bottom line. This is for boys 3 to 7 years of age. This also had a married couple that took care of them. Now, so here's the 3 homes that were for the kids. Now, the farm had its own water system. 2 lakes were developed and stocked with fish. It had a log cabin that was erected on one of the lakes as a recreation spot for the children. It was beautiful. Here's one of the lakes. This is Lake Rowena from 1938. This was located, and I should say is located, to this day, south of the property on the west side of 31 is where it's located at. Is that right, Lexi, pretty much? Okay. I saw a picture of that. I have an actual map that I've worked on that you're going to love. I can't wait to show this to you. We're going to go into that in a few minutes here. So this is the cabin of Lake Rowena. It's a good-sized cabin. It's still there today. It's a home today, a residence. It doesn't look the same. It's been changed around, of course, a little bit, but you can still tell it's still there. Here is the small lake. And you can see where this is at. See the farm buildings? 31s will be over here. So here's this lake here. And Lexi told me that's still there. It's still there, the lake. So beautiful, though. Isn't it beautiful? What a paradise to grow up in. Now, they also had a spacious open-air swimming pool. And also a tennis court. And here's the pool. Isn't that beautiful? That's a good-sized pool, isn't it? So, no kidding. Now, the home had a dietitian, a nurse, a 2-room schoolhouse. The farm buildings included a dairy barn, horse barn, poultry building, hog houses, machine shed, and a shop. These children ate good. I can tell you, there's no question about that. Hundreds of children benefited from this Yeoman City of Childhood. To help you get a better idea of the layout of the property, here's where I'm going to go to the map. This is good. Now, this is an aerial view as of right now of the property. Now, just to give you the bearings, here is Century Plaza. Here's 31. Here is where the home is at today. Here is South Park in Dundee. First Street comes down here, comes down to the park. Here's where the park is at. Here's the river, of course. Here's the little bridge where you walk over in South Park. So everybody kind of pretty much get an appreciation of where this is at? South End Park? Is that what it's called? South End Park, okay. It has to be right here, South End Park. So this is how it looked. Here, by the way, is Lake Rowena right here. Now, let's look at how it looked back in 1939. There's 1939. Is that cool? Yeah. So look at how empty everything is. There's no houses here. Look at this here. Totally, nothing's built up. Here's the trolley bridge at this time. Although the trolley was already shut down in 1939. It was shut down for 6 years. The trolley stopped in 1933. The bridge is still there. But this is interesting because here's the property, and I want you to pay special attention to this. I think this is so cool. I'm going to go back for a second. See this here, how it's open right now? Look at that, how it's still open. That is cool. I'm going to show you why. This is the administrative house, okay? The big home, the White House that's still there today. Now, this is where Poppy Cottage was, right here, okay? This here is Sedgwick Hall, where that was located at. And this is where Evergreen Cottage is located at. And I'll tell you how I know this. What I did is I looked at these homes, how they were built. I blew this up and looked at these buildings very carefully. And these buildings are the exact shapes of these buildings. So this is where they were located at, okay? That's how I'm basing this on. So I think, am I right, Lexi, pretty much? Do you think that's accurate? Good. So, excellent. Now, here is where the swimming pool is. So a little walk from there, but look how big. I think that they had plans to make this to really develop this here, because look at the distance between these homes. They could have eventually put in a lot more homes if it would have, been the case. That maybe that was their intention. I don't know. Here is one of the man-made lakes. Here is Lake Rowena, and this is where the cabin is, and it was. Okay, so it gives you an idea looking at it where everything is at. Is that helpful? Evergreen Cottage still stands. The one for 3 to 7-year-olds is still there to this day, and it's apartments. Okay, the other two were their apartments, correct? The other two were torn down, and I don't know. Maybe Lexi can answer that question. Okay, let's go forward. So growing up at the Yeoman City of Childhood was truly a blessing for these orphans. However, time and unforeseen occurrence befall us all. It's out of Ecclesiastes, and it's true. There was a scare that without a doubt left an indelible memory in every child and worker then living at the orphanage. This occurred on July 1st, 1933. You remember that, don't you? I forget your first name? Shirley. Shirley, I talked to Shirley on the phone earlier this week. Her husband was at the Yeoman home. He was an orphan there. So, and I was talking to her a little while ago, and she was raised in this town. She remembers the tornado. You said you were like, 5 years old back then or so? Yep. So, without a warning, a tornado ripped through the area. The Yeoman City of Childhood suffered the heaviest damage of the storm. This is what the paper had to say. This is very interesting. The Yeoman City of Childhood, located on a high point to the east of Dundee, a mile or more, seemed to have felt the storm's greatest fury. Here are grouped a dozen buildings on a bluff, in the center of a section of farmland. Many thousands of dollars have been expended here to create a beauty spot of nature. The entire property was landscaped with trees and shrubs from all over the world. After the storm, nothing remained in the way of man and nature-created beauty. Fully half of the trees were uprooted, and those which still stood were leafless, barkless, and partly branchless. Here a huge barn was blown away. The entire end of the house where the farm help lived was sucked away, sheeting, siding, studding, leaving the dishes standing on the shelves in the kitchen unharmed. 100 turkeys, several hundred chickens, and a score of hogs vanished, and late yesterday no trace had been found of them. Farm crops of every description on this farm and in the vicinity are a 100% loss. Just across from the Fox River, from the school damage is very slight. 55,000 young fish in a newly created artificial lake were swept over the confining wall into the river in a rush of water said to have been 10 feet deep. Isn't that amazing? So Mrs. A.F. Glenser of Wheaton, formerly of Belvedere, is in charge of the school at the Yeoman City. There was no loss of life there, although 8 children and a matron who were weekending in a long camp in the farm's woods faced death by drowning for several hours. Heroics were numerous, and yesterday afternoon, members of the American Legion of Elgin were asked to take charge of policing. This is from the Belvedere Daily Republican from July 3rd, 1933. Isn't that something? So very informative information, isn't it? So it helps you to appreciate the damage. Let's look at pictures, because pictures will are better than 1,000 words. Remember 31, how it looked? Beautiful. Look at this. This is after the tornado. This is all the people coming to see the damage. Look at the trees. Look at the damage. Unbelievable. This is in the middle of summer. So it's pretty effective, pretty powerful. Here's a picture of that building. It had the wall taken off. There's the dishes. Took the wall right off, but left the dishes right in the cupboard. Isn't that amazing? Here's another picture of that. Well, that goes into it. Here's another picture of showing the actual building. So, really something else. Here's how the home looked before the tornado. Here's after the tornado. So you can see that was a huge amount of damage. It really was. Now, fortunately, no one was killed, like I said. That was good. And, of course, this is an insurance company. So I'm sure they settled quickly and rebuilt. And they certainly did. Okay? Here's how the home looked. Here is after. And here's how they restored it. And Lexi, I did look into this here. They did do the pillars. It was the Yeoman insurance. And so this is how they restored it after the tornado. So they made some major changes to this here. Beautiful home. Beautiful. Now, on a less serious note, this is from the Belvedere Daily Republican from September 27th, 1932. Chicken thieves have invaded the roofs of Yeoman City of Childhood near Elgin early yesterday morning. They were frightened away by workmen and abandoned their loot on the riverbank. Officials of the school reported to the state police. Burlap bags containing 25 chickens were found. Isn't that something? So, this shows you. So, this made news in Belvedere. So, that's something else. So, I'll tell you this though. Although nothing can replace the separation of a family or a loss of one's parents, the Yeoman City of Childhood was a haven for these children. It really was. Here's a picture of some of the kids. This is in the Evergreen. These are 3 to 7-year-olds. They're Santa Claus. So you can appreciate the life here. This is a good picture here too. I like about the kids. And this one here is cool. I'm going to tell you why. See this here? The whole thing going up there. See this gentleman right here? This young man here. This was the first child that came to live at the Yeoman home. The very first child, Fred Howard. Fred Howard was born in 1911 in Michigan. In 1926, his mother dies. So Fred is brought to Dundee from Michigan by train. He came to the Yeoman City of Childhood to live. He was 14 years old. When interviewed years later, he stated, "Imagine what it was like to have fresh milk every day and fresh eggs and new clothes." He said it was a wonderful life. And this is one of his chores, milking 14 cows each day. Now, yes, the orphans took part in farm and household tasks such as tending the greenhouse and growing crops. Now, when he was older, Fred was offered a chance to attend the Pillsbury Military Academy in Minnesota. Here's this photograph, shows him with the bugle in the uniform. He went into World War II, and he found when he came back after the war, he came back to Elgin, and he worked at the Elgin Post Office, where he retired. Now, at the age of 79, Yeoman's first child passed away. And this was in 1991. Here we see a picture of him here. But his final resting place is on the original Yeoman property he grew up on. He's in the cemetery that's there in the property, just south of the house to this day. And there's his gravesite right there. Is that cool? Full circle, Now, another orphan was June Maines Racka. Now, remember in her childhood days at Yeoman, this is what she said: you weren't lonesome, you always had company, someone to play tennis with or roller skate with. They were very good to us. They took care of our health, and they'd always buy us new clothes. We never had to wear hand-me-downs. That's really something, Recall that this was during the Great Depression. The children living in the Yeoman City of Childhood never felt the effects of the financial plight that the country was facing. Now, I should have mentioned that the girls living there at the Yeoman had their share of chores as well. June recalls on the third floor of one of the property's buildings was the sewing room where a lady did a lot of mending and making clothes. On Saturday afternoons, the girls from 10 years of age and up went to the sewing room and learned to sew. They also learned to darn their socks as well as the boys' socks. I remember my mother used to darn my socks, so I remember that. You don't hear about that today anymore, by no means, but that was what it was like. And this is cool. This is an actual sewing kit that Yeoman had put together, and I'm sure gave out, from Yeoman. This is the how it looked, with the sewing needles and all that. And there you see the Yeoman administrative buildings. Here's the Poppy Cottage. So it's pretty cool. A few days ago, another orphan, and I say a few days ago, literally, another orphan passed away from Yeoman. His name was Wayne Clark. It says there, our beloved father, Merlin Wayne Clark, returned home peaceably Sunday morning, July 13th, in the presence of his eternal companion and a faithful son at the age of 88. Now, I was going to say, Wayne's mother died when he was 8 years old. 8 months later, his father, who was a railroad agent in Parson, Utah, was killed in a train accident. So due to circumstances, Wayne and his brother Dean were sent to live at the Yeoman City of Childhood Orphanage in Illinois. He returned home in 1944 to live with his grandmother. So he was there for 10 years. So when he turned 18 years of age is when he went back home to live with his grandparents. So these are just 3 examples of the hundreds of children that the Yeoman City of Childhood became a home for. Over the years, though, like everything else, the policies changed. The direction of the Yeoman organization changed. In 1932, the fraternal elements of the organization were abandoned, and the name was changed to the Yeoman Mutual Life Insurance Company. In 1938, the company was renamed the American Mutual Life Insurance Company, which still exists to this day, by the way. In 1941, mismanagement of the home and $80,000 of unaccounted assets caused a company scandal. So following with most of the board members resigning. So these were among the factors that led to the eventual closing of the Yeoman City of Childhood. The last orphans left behind their matrons, their mansions, and were dispersed to live in foster homes. So after the orphanage closed, Edmund H. Hager purchased the entire property in 1944 from the insurance company. Edmund Hager's son-in-law, Estes' father, Joseph F. Estes, purchased the mansion and 30 acres from it, or around it, from his father-in-law and moved his family there. So it's been in the Estes family for 70 years and remains in the Estes family to this day. Now, there were some other factors which I don't go into that Craig had mentioned about an insurance company getting involved with some of the property and all that, but it got too complicated. I didn't want to go into it. So the bottom line is they started, if they have it to this day, that's it. Okay. So here's how it looked. Here's how it developed. Here's how it is today. Beautiful home. So this concludes the presentation on the Yeoman City of Orphanage, the childhood, okay? Let's go a little further now. We're going to go into the Sears kid homes. That was the majority of the presentation, okay? So we're going to go to the last part now, which is regarding the Sears homes. Any other questions, first of all, on the Yeoman home? No? Okay. Caretaker. The caretaker takes care of the home right now. So, yeah, for the home, for the family. Very nice family, by the way. I met Romero? Romero. Nice man. Okay. Now, the hour has arrived. Dad gathers Mom and Sis into the carriage. He hops into the wagon with his brothers to ride off to the railroad station. The day and the hour have come to greet the first shipment of your family's brand new house. All the lumber will be pre-cut and arrive with instructions for your dad and your uncles to assemble and build. Mom and Dad picked out number 115 from the Sears Roebuck & Company catalog. It will have 3 bedrooms and a wood foundation plus a front porch, but no bath. It's okay. We don't need a bathroom. Come on. That would have been, they started, well, I'll go into that actually. That would have been the early 1900s, that one, okay? Yeah. The first, which I'll go into the first catalog that had homes was 1908, okay? So it was around the early 1900s there. In just a few days, the whole family will sleep under the roof of your custom-made Sears modern home. Entire homes would arrive by railroad from pre-cut lumber to carved staircases, down to the nails and the varnish. The average Sears modern home kit was made up of 30,000 parts and weighed 25 tons. It's a big shipment to get, isn't it? Okay. Now, families picked out their homes according to their needs, tastes, and pocketbooks. Sears provided all the materials and instructions, and for many years, the financing for homeowners to build their own homes. So Sears did it all, even the financing. Sears had homes in their catalog started in 1908 and continued on up until 1940. Now, look at this. There were a total of 447 different styles. Wow. Is that amazing? Each of the designs could be modified, reversing floor plans, building with brick instead of wood, and many other options. So this is a huge selection that they had over the years. There were more than 100,000 Sears homes built during that time period. That's a lot of homes. It averages to 260 homes per month on the average that they were selling. That is huge. This is nationwide, by the way. Now, Sears was the largest supplier of kit homes in the country, but you know what? It wasn't the first, by no means.
What should they cost?
We're going to go into that. Okay, in a few minutes here. Okay. Now, this is interesting here. As early as the 1830s, people were ordering homes. And I'm going to show you this here. Please note that at this time, in this early time period, in the 1800s, this was a new territory, Illinois. It was prairie. And what happens in prairies during the summertime? You have fires. What do fires do? Destroy trees. There were many areas that didn't have trees. Lumber was scarce from many parts of Illinois. And so, this being the case of being able to get a home shipped in, pre-cut, ready to go, was a blessing. Look at this article that I'm going to find from May 2nd, 1839 from Pittsburgh. This is unbelievable. Many houses are framed here, Pittsburgh, and all prepared, ready for putting together, and in that state, shipped to the Illinois upper Mississippi, or wherever the immigrant may choose to cast his lot. It seems to us that building houses for the far west, as what this was back then, might be a regular and profitable branch of business in this city, where all the necessary materials are cheaper than in any other city of the Union. The freight on a 2-story house, 16 by 30, including all the woodwork, nails, glass, everything, from Pittsburgh to Peoria or Galena, or any intermediate point on the Illinois or upper Mississippi, would not exceed $100. Wow. So, isn't that something? So, that's how it was back then. Is that cool? You know, right now I'm doing a book on Galena. So I had this from my research on that. And this is, the history of Galena is awesome. I can't wait for this book to come out. It's going to be awesome information. But that's what they did. A lot of the homes were built, pre-cut from this area. There was actually, in Galena, there was actually a law that was put into place where they were not even allowed to cut down any trees for a pretty good sized distance within the city limits because there was such a scarcity of trees. They were used for the smelters, which I won't go into right now. So anyway, that's from 1839. Now, although Sears was not the first, they were the largest and took prefabricated kit homes to a whole new level. So, in 1908, Sears issued its first specialty catalog for houses. It was called the Book of Modern Homes and Building Plans. And it featured 44 styles. Here's the price, Mom. $360 to $2,890. That's the price range. Is that cool? Now, the first mail-order house was filled in 1908. Sears later brought a lumber mill, or purchased a lumber mill in southern Illinois and arranged for production of kits from which homes could be assembled. The Sears Modern Home catalogs came to advertise 3 lines of homes aimed for filling different financial situations. The honor built were the best. Then there was the standard built and the simplex sectional. Here's the breakdown of what they were. The most expensive ones, they had rafters 14 inches, 3/8 apart. They had cypress siding. The wood was clear grade, not free. The flooring you could choose from was yellow pine, oak, maple wood. Some good things for a home back at this time period. The other homes, standard built, this is how they state it. These were best for warmer climates. They were a little more drafty, okay? A little more drafty homes. They weren't quite as good. And then there's the simplex sectionals. And like the name states, these were small, couple of rooms, and they were ideal for summer cottages. So that's the differences you could get. Okay. Individuals could even design their own homes and submit the blueprints to Sears. And they'd get it ready for you, pre-cut it, and ship it out to you. Is that cool? Yeah. So Sears modern homeowners could have the freedom to design and build their own homes. Here are some examples of the Sears kit homes. This is the Hamilton for $2,000, 1908. Here's a cute one. The Arlington, 1913, $1,294. Here's another example. The Phoenix, 1915, $1,271. This is 3 examples of over 400. There's so many. In 1919, Sears opened up their stores, the Modern Home Sales Centers. The first one was in Akron, Ohio. These were storefronts where you could go personally and inspect the millwork, the lumber, and go into your Sears home. Oh, that would go into your Sears home, I'm sorry. You could examine the different types of bookcase colonnades or your favorite fireplace mantle or your sleeping porch. You could look at things and pick things out right there. And there was actually one right here in Elgin. There was a store right here in Elgin where you could do this in. Residents of both East and West Dundee purchased homes through the Sears Roebuck & Company catalog. So, we have documentation on at least 10 individual homes. And this is an example of why I appreciate the Dundee Historical Society so much. I had this information from 12 to 14 years ago when we did a tour. Remember that, Christy? On the Sears homes. And I got that information from the Historical Society. So our support in the Historical Society is so beneficial. If you're not a member, I encourage you to become a member of the Historical Society. Anyway, these were shipped in via railroad. Right here in East Dundee, here's the railroad. This is East Dundee. This is how it looked. Here's the depot. Yep, right back in there. Yep. But look at here. It says coal. I found that interesting back there. On that building, it said coal. I don't remember that. But these buildings are still standing. That's all cool. Here are some of the Sears homes of Dundee. Here's examples. And that's cut off, isn't it? So you can't read it. Well, here it is, the Walton. The Walton, $2,400. This is the Walton. This is located at 429 South 1st Street. It appeared in the 1925 catalog. Here's how it looks today. See the same similarity? Yeah. Still there. Here is a five-room home called the Crescent. Beautiful little home. Isn't that neat? This is at 88 Edwards. I love this home here. Look at how it looks today. Just like it doesn't change. It looks exactly. Isn't that beautiful? And this home to me is special. I'm going to tell you why. I went to each one of these homes to take these photographs. I spoke to the woman that lived here. Cute little story. This 88 Edwards Street residence has a special story I'm going to tell you about. The home was built by Fred J. Heidman, Jr. in 1925. Fred and his wife moved here from East Dundee. Okay? His father, Fred Heidman Sr., was one of the original deacons for the Bethlehem Lutheran Church in Dundee when the church was built in 1911. But this is the cool part. Alice Heidman, Fred Heidman Jr.'s daughter, lives in his house to this day. Just 2 generations covering 89 years in this home. Isn't that cool? So her dad built this house by himself with his family, and she's in it to this day. Another example, the Wellington, 92 Browning Street, 1925 catalog. Here's how it looks. Now see here? It is reversed, but it's the same house. Here is the Columbine for $2,000, $2,039, 1925, 514 South 2nd Street. That's how that house looks. So you can see, again, the same styles. A lot of vegetation there. That's okay. It's all good. Here's the Starlight. This is a pretty house. They're all pretty. This is on 3rd Street, 521 South. See it? No question. The Wilmore. I love this one. Very cute house. $1,191. Can you imagine that? 702 3rd Street. It was originally called the Jewel. This was first called the Jewel, and the name was changed to the Wilmore. This is one of the best-selling houses Sears had. Look at it. It looks the same, doesn't it? So it's right there. This is right by South Park. South Edge Park. I'm sorry. Okay. The Valonia, 506 North Barrington. Isn't that cute? There's actually a couple of these in town that we know of. But I'll show you another one in a few minutes. But this is the Haven. I couldn't find the actual, this is what I could find. It wasn't as clear, but it's still good. The price was like $1,500. But this house is beautiful today. Wait till you see this one. This is on 513 South 3rd Street. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Nice homes. We live in a beautiful town, don't we? I tell you. Now, this is also a beautiful home. This is the Lewiston. And this is in the 1932 catalog, 314 North 6th Street in West Dundee. This is a beautiful home.
Who built them? When they got the kit?
They build them themselves. You'd build them yourselves. You get a direction book to tell you how to build them. So you get your family together, your uncles, your neighbors, you build them yourselves. This is how it was. So it's something else. So here's one last one. This is the Valonia, 707 Geneva Street. Another very cute house. And I got to tell you, this kind owner of this home, Rick, thoughtfully gave me an artifact from the original shipment of the house. It's a piece of one of the original crates that the home was shipped in. And this is how it looks. And here it is right here. So this is the original, one of the original pieces of the crate that house was shipped to in from East Dundee right here. Is that cool? So, very nice. And you know what, Christy, I'd be happy to give this to the Historical Society if you'd like to have it. You got it. Okay. And here's a close-up of it. So some of the writing is still even legible. And it says on there what it was. It's dark oak, so maybe it's part of the flooring that was in this crate. We don't know. So why did Sears stop selling houses? The Great Depression began in 1929. It didn't come to an end until we entered the war in 1941. During these years, Sears experienced steadily rising payment defaults, resulting in ever-increasing strain on the catalog house program. The mortgage portion of the program was discontinued in 1934 after Sears was forced to liquidate $11 million in defaulted debt. That's a lot of money back then. You know? These factors plus others eventually took Sears out of the home sales market. So, are there other Sears homes in this area? Absolutely, without a doubt. But the thing is, where are they at? Sears stopped issuing its Modern Homes catalog after 1940. A few years later, all sales records were destroyed during a corporate house cleaning. So we don't know. Literally, only a small percentage of these homes have been documented. Finding these homes today requires research and to really properly identify them. But you can do it. It is possible to do it. So we do know this. Communities across the U.S. feature clusters of the Sears houses as unofficial historical sites. Elgin has the largest known collection with more than 200 Sears homes. And there's also other kids too, for that matter. But Elgin is huge when it comes to this. So this concludes today's presentation. So thank you. Thank you.